My travelers on the road to CASA. Sure. Q1 of 2026. Did you make those resolutions, eh? I didn't either. Yeah, it's been the first quarter and it's been interesting. It's been interesting to say the least. We have 10 lessons, 10 of our top lessons from Q1, and I hope these can be valuable to you just to get a lay of the land. Number one, if you didn't see the LinkedIn post or whatever description you saw of this episode, number one is solve hardware problems before software problems. This one it's big. It's like fundamental. Number two, inner change always trumps outer change. Self-explanatory, but we'll get deeper into that. Number three, you are handicapped without a plan for the day. Man, I learned this the hard way. Number four, don't be a trainee for too long. Number five, if at all possible, don't be green. Very linked to the previous point as well. Number six, workplace names and titles are utter nonsense. They're also not. Number seven, don't be the guy who died early. Number eight, motivation is underrated. Number nine, there are things about which you think and things about which you don't. And number 10, the world will shape you if you don't shape yourself. Let's get into it. Number one, solve hardware problems before software problems. What do I mean by this? I got this idea from this writer. He's such an incredible writer. He generally, in my experience, has been writing about agency, which is this idea that you can affect the outcomes of your life. George Mack. And basically, he said that you should solve hardware problems before software problems, meaning you should solve the hard physical things before the soft things, specifically in your own body. So if you're having a bad day, the first question before anything to do with, and this links to the second lesson, before anything that has to do with your boss or other people or, what you, I don't know, are thinking, how you feel, you should be asking, what is your body saying? Did you drink water? Are you hydrated? How much sleep did you get last night? Did you exercise? When was the last time you exercised? Hey, what's your diet been like? Thereafter, once you've diagnosed these issues, if everything's in order, right, you've gotten a good 7 hours of sleep, you've been exercising consistently for the last 2 weeks or week or so, and your diet's it's decent, you drink water, you have this water bottle next to you, then maybe let's dig into the softer things. Let's look at the psychology. Let's look at our mindset, etc., etc., etc. So many of problems that we think of the mind are really of the body. And we think about like that saying, strong body, strong mind. I sort of thought of it more, or now I think of it more as a causal loop than a causal link, right? We think of the link, mind to body, but we don't really think about the loop, that the mind affects the body and the body affects the mind and the mind affects the body and the body affects the mind. Strong body, strong mind, strong body, strong mind, strong. So where does it start? You can definitely start at hardware. That is a surefire way to diagnose a problem and try to fix it. Number two, inner change always trumps outer change. This is somewhat linked in the sense that you've got to look at yourself before you look at your surroundings. I've been experiencing some, I suppose, potentially challenging moments with my team, right? Not in the sense that uh, I had any fights or anything like that, right? But it's just that in certain circumstances, I feel like I'm not on the same wavelength. You know, people want to clock off quite early, for instance. I just don't like to. You know, I really want to work hard, and so there's been like these sort of um, misalignments in terms of what we want to achieve, I suppose, in our careers per se. You know, for instance. So I could, I took it like that. I took it like this. I could easily say, man, these guys are, you know, they're just so lackluster. It's just no zest for life, and they don't want to work, no ambition, etc., etc. Do that judgmental kind of thing. I could say that, right? But that would do nothing for me. Instead, one can ask, okay, what am I doing wrong in terms of how I can maximize this scenario? And I think of these words by Seneca, ancient Roman philosopher and writer. He said, "You need a change of soul, not a change of sky. You may cross the wide open sea, but wherever you go, your faults will follow." And I think of another quote by French novelist and writer Marcel Proust. The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. I think these are great meditations on paying attention to yourself. At all times, see what's within you that needs change before you consider what's outside of you. Number 3, you are handicapped without a plan for the day. Yo, this one, I learned this really from last year, but it's just become even more evident. Man, I'd rather get an hour less sleep than wake up without a plan. That's something that I've genuinely established. I would rather get an hour less sleep than wake up without a plan. And I didn't know why for a long time, but I actually did a little bit of research into some of the science. There's apparently some research that says that planning the night before actually improves your sleep and therefore your mood in the day. It reduces decision fatigue. I mean, it's just the simple example, which is something that I'm going to start implementing now, of having everything that you're going to wear for the week ready on the Sunday. Then you don't have to decide every day and like rack your brain about, oh, what am I going to wear? Or just not having to make the decision in the moment. It's like having values. Values is such a great way to know your values. You know, if it's between this and this, my values tell me I'm going to be choosing that, right? To lie or not to lie. I mean, my values, I don't lie. So, no thanks, G, right? And also, it obviously, naturally, improves focus. So now when you've planned to do something, you can actually focus on doing that thing as opposed to having this scatterbrain kind of energy, which is so common in like this distraction age. Just your phone will just go ding, or mine goes, I hear voices. That's Randy Orton. He's a wrestler. His entry song. It's my ringtone. And then you're just gone. And now you're not in the moment. You're not taking advantage of flow. If you don't know flow, search it up, man. It's a phenomenal phenomenon of human experience. It's just basically that moment of effortless exertion. You want to chase flow. It's a good goal. But you don't have flow if you don't plan. And I would argue, right? So this is more mysterious. This is not backed by science, but there is this this benefit that I postulate of planning the night before, that you let whatever's on your plan, on your agenda, cook in your subconscious. Hear me out. Yeah, guys. I know I'm sounding crazy. I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to you, ho. I'm talking I'm talking into a mic and I'm talking about cooking ideas in your sleep. I mean, it's not too out there. When I have something that I'm looking forward to the next day, sometimes maybe there's a little problem that or puzzle, let's call it. That's another thing that George Mack advised to become more high agency. There's no such thing as problems. There's only puzzles. If I've got a little puzzle that's still you know still incomplete, I will park it either on a piece of paper or just be aware of like the structure. Right. This is when you have like a frame for the puzzle, not those big questions of like what's the meaning of life. Then you just won't sleep. But small puzzle, small challenge, you just park it, right? Piece of paper in your brain, leave it. Go take a nap or go to sleep. Then you wake up and it seems to have solved itself. I really do believe that your subconscious is such a powerful tool and you can leverage that in sleep. So, just the night before, if there's something you want to cook, you're going to let it cook. Now, I'm using it wrong, but if you want to cook something, plan. Number 4, don't be a trainee for too long. This one is it's very interesting. I kind of uh I I was inspired by one of my friends. I had him on the podcast, Peter Pinar. He was a psycho trainee trailblazer finalist and winner of the disruptive innovator category. He's just a high performer on levels unbeknownst to man. Like, and so I don't see him as a trainee. He was a first year trainee last year, and I never ever experienced him as a trainee. He was an academic trainee at the time, one of my academic trainees, so one of my assistant lecturers. But he never gave me this vibe that he was there simply to learn. Obviously, we're always here to learn, right? It's your traineeship, but that wasn't how he showed up. He showed up not to tick boxes, but to add value above and beyond. Even if it's not above and beyond, it's just actually doing something that pushes outcomes. There's so much of what I'm seeing around me of this like coasting because you're a first year. Obviously, you're not going to keep quiet and not ask questions because you are a first year. You do know nothing. But that doesn't mean that you don't have the opportunity to add value in every little way you can. To pick up your hand, learn fast. I think the mindset just gives you that oomph to not sit, to not coast. So obviously you're going to ask for help, but it's also the slippery slope that you don't want to go down of being too casual in the beginning. And 3 years slip by you and you don't know why this traineeship was just like, meh. I want to leave this point with a quote that I heard from my friend Peter, which I'm probably paraphrasing, but it was so good. Just had to share it. Which is basically, you need to be humble enough to know that you can be replaced. But you need to be confident enough to know that it will take 4 or 5 people to replace you. Number 5, if at all possible, don't be green. I kind of gleaned this lesson from a conversation with my performance manager, where he just said as a passing comment, like, you as a first year, you're not going to get much preference when it comes to, certain audits or, doing certain work because you're still green, dude. You're green. Now, green means you're new. You've never done work. You still need experience, exposure. just to simple timesheet logging, stuff like that you've just never done. You're green. And I realized then that this concept of being green extends way beyond just work. It extends to just about every single topic that you can think of. So when it comes to hobbies, golf, right? I know a lot of you guys out there listening to this want to play golf, but you know nothing about golf. It could be architecture, it could be, you know, sculpting, it could be ancient African history, it could be whatever. Being green means you know nothing. I had Ditlogono Dube on. He's a private equity professional, and he just mentioned this past, like another one of those passing comments or stories of how when he was in London, so he was training, and in one of these years of training, he was in London, and this guy that he met like just in a passing interaction, because he mentioned something that he knew about wine, right? The guy loved wine, and the guy mentioned something about wine, and Tlogin knew a bit about wine, and so he mentioned the stuff that he knew, and boom, they're friends. He knows a guy in London that he's friends with. So it's like, just not being green is just this incredible trick up your sleeve. Everywhere you go, there's no scenario where you're completely baseless. There's no thing that you know nothing about. Obviously, this is not possible. The more you know, the more you will know that you don't know. So obviously, it's not possible to know everything, but it is possible to know a little bit about everything. So even Mark Zuckerberg, one thing, I forgot the podcast that I heard it from, but one thing about him that's astonishing is how quickly he learns things. So one moment they're telling him about this new thing called, VR, virtual reality, and he's like, "What? Well, how does that work?" Or augmented reality. And then the next time that you speak to Mark, he knows so much about it. Obviously, not everyone's a Mark Zuckerberg, but I think these things provide great inspiration to aspire to not be green. Number 6, workplace titles are utter nonsense. They're also not. If any of you have ever seen on like LinkedIn or wherever, someone have a title, right? This is a great one. Analyst. Senior analyst. If you've ever seen that, if you're in CTA or you're in varsity right now and you're listening to this, if you've ever seen that, please forget about the glamour of that title. It is utter nonsense. It is like, dude, these titles were just pulled out of some other place that's probably not appropriate to say on this podcast. Some other place from whence it came. It came from nothing, bro. And people do things that they don't sound as glamorous as analyst, senior analyst. Like now you're just like, I don't know, cutting. Like the other day, I was like cutting Easter egg pictures for a work thing. Like you're just cutting. You're just on the guillotine chopping papers, bro. Printing stuff and chopping papers, doing coffee runs. That's what it means to be an analyst. It's funny. But I say this, however, they're also not, because although you have this junior level, which is obviously the first, and then you've got senior, although it means nothing. Like literally a senior can be the exact same person that they were when they were a junior, but they've just got a different title. It could also mean everything. When you have the rank, when you've advanced to a level, it's similar to having a CASA behind your name. You don't necessarily have it all figured out. You're not necessarily doing great work, but you do have this benefit of perception. And if you can exceed expectations, in some way, you honor the title and your reputation grows from there. So that's why you have these CAs that are so successful. But that's why we have this notion of the CA equals success. It's because of those few great examples of how this thing can really just bolster you. But then you also have the CAs that are unemployed, a few. Very few, by the way, guys. Please check the stats. Please go check the psycho stats. They're available, publicly available. It's not a lot. It's like way less than what you think. But there's a few unemployed CAs. It's not completely just foolproof to get a job. You're not guaranteed a job if you're a CA per se. And that's how we have this stock difference, because there's those who honor the title and those who coast. And I think so much about, even this title of like being a podcast host, right? Or like I'm the podcaster dude. The question that I always have, that I ask myself, especially when I haven't met people in real life. You're listening to this right now. You've probably never even met me. You might not have met me, right? It's this. Are you the real deal? Are you the real deal? People are going to see your email signature. They're going to see senior analyst. They're going to see senior associate. They're going to see CASA. When you pitch up, do you knock their socks off? And do they have this kind of impression like, oh yeah, man, I mean, he's a CA, bro, he's brilliant. Like, are you actually going out there and bearing the mantle of being a psycho ambassador, of saying, I'm a CASA, I'm brilliant, right? And not just saying that, but obviously enacting that. Are you doing that? Or you just a fake? Are you a fraud? Is it all just optics? No, I've just got the 4 letters to look cool. Workplace titles mean nothing. Number 7, don't be the guy who died early. Oh, this is big, bruh. This is big. So we are young, right? You and I are young. But I think of this, I think it was Benjamin Franklin quote, often attributed to Benjamin Franklin. When I think about us in our youth, and I think about my counterparts at this, stage where maybe some of us are in these big impending, these impending corporates, these soulless, quote unquote, sell your soul, soulless corporates. He said, most people die at 25 and are buried at 75. Every moment you have this opportunity to live, to see things beyond what you are used to learn new things, to ask questions, right? Like I think of even people as these infinite dimensions. Like you've got this human being next to you, right? They're just usually just whatever, some, flesh, bones, blood kind of thing, brains, some less than others. but you've got this person. Actually, you've got a life. You've got a well of knowledge. You've got a whole repository of experiences next to you, sitting next to you. And I think of even a moment where I was at a particular client, and this client has one of the largest corporate art collections in the country. And it's beautiful. If you look, the whole place is littered with art. It's littered with inspiration. But many of my, counterparts would go there and they would just be like, oh, we're going to the client. With the one with that aircon that's so cold. Like the aircon is cold. But we're going to that client. Ugh, I don't want to go. Whereas if you just look, you've literally got world class art just across from your workstation. So I saw this one piece when I was walking around with, basically, if I can explain it, this 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 humanoid figure that's got no legs. So it's no legs. It's like stumped. I kind of like, looks kind of like disabled, right? For lack of a better term. Also stubs for arms, but just arms open or stubs open wide to the world beyond them, and its head is looking up. It's looking up as if rejoicing, as if triumphant. I don't know. It just inspired me. And at the time when I saw it, yeah, that sculpture, I was actually on crutches at the time. I had a little bit of an illness, and I couldn't actually walk. So it was so poetic just to see, this handicapped, quote unquote, handicapped fellow in the sculpture kind of mirror me, right? Or mirror what I could be. I could be, on crutches. Or I could be like, man, you know what? I'm on crutches and I've got another leg. I'm not on a wheelchair, brother. Life is good. The sun still shines. Don't be the guy who died early. Number 8, motivation is underrated. I thought motivation was overrated. That's what you're thinking. I know. Because, motivation, it runs out, dude. It's like, you can be so motivated one day, but the next you're not, and boom, nothing gets done. So that's why discipline is the most important thing, right? It's all about discipline. It's not about motivation. Now, this comes back to a concept that I shared last year as well in my previous reflection. But I think it is something that needs to be reiterated in my opinion. This is my philosophy, so take from it what you will. Discipline must be a last resort. That's what I see discipline as, personally. Because now we have so much knowledge, so much insight into how to optimize, in fact, I'm not even talking about optimization. I'm just talking about the basics. Like principle number 1, like lesson number 1, solve the hardware before the software. That's something that maybe people didn't really think to or intuitively know once upon a time. But just first, bruh, are you sleeping? Is your diet okay? Are you hydrated? Like, did you exercise, dude? These are things that you should ask first, right? Similarly, what are your systems? What are your habits? What are your inclinations? What do you like, right? That's where you should start. I even think of this principle from How to Managing Oneself by Peter Drucker, as I've quoted this book so many times, but it's a book about how to basically manage oneself as a working professional, as a knowledge worker in the 21st century. And the first question that every single knowledge worker must ask, that many of us seldom do, is what are your strengths? What are you good at? That's where you start. We think we need to focus on weaknesses all the time, but you should start at strengths. That's how you add the most value. That's how you're able to get that momentum, to get that flow, right? So I think you should focus on everything else. And then, okay, fine. Look, to be fair, discipline has to come at some point, and you got to call on discipline at some point every single day, somewhat. Like, gotta just wake up, dude. For me, I hate waking up, dude. Yo, my gosh, not that I don't want to die or anything, but I just like waking up in the morning early. It's hectic, but you got to do it. So we leave. But motivation, that's what you want to run on most of the time. Peter, again, to quote my brother, he actually in CTA, he had this cognitive trick that he employed to be motivated. Wasn't discipline. This was motivation. And that's why I'm like, nah, motivation's underrated. He would, in his mind's eye, at the beginning of the year, Jan, Feb, whenever, when he's like wanting to veg out, when he wants to like, I don't know, stop studying, chill, take a break, whatever, when you shouldn't, right? There's nothing wrong with taking a break. But he would, in his mind's eye, see himself in October and see himself regretting, like he would visualize this viscerally, and he would see himself in the exam paper being like, oh, that topic that there was, like, let's call it working capital. Oh no, there's working capital in the exam and I didn't do it properly and I went to sleep and I didn't do the question. And he would literally have like his heart beating, like he would transport himself to that moment. Like, I'm not advising this per se, it's pretty hectic to hear, but he would transport himself to that moment and boom, back at work. That was motivation. So I'm not telling you to do this. It's a bit extreme. It was hectic. But I think we should do with more motivation. More than we would like to admit, at least. Number 9. There are things about which you think and things about which you don't. Okay. Truth is, you probably need to think less. I'm probably talking to the wrong people, bro. Like accountants, analytical people, overachiever, academic. Yes, you need to think less. I'll be honest, dude. I'll be honest. You probably need to think less. I learned this from this philosopher that I came about. I suppose he wasn't necessarily a philosopher, but he was a Jesuit priest back in the 17th century Spain. Back in 17th century Spain, so at the tail end of the Spanish Empire. His name was Baltasar Gracian. And he wrote this line that was so good in this one book called I think it was called The Pocket Oracle and the Art of Worldly Wisdom. He said, your heart is your private oracle. Your heart is your private oracle. You know, we often think of like how we feel as wrong. You shouldn't act just on your gut. You should analyze. You should think about it, right? Now, obviously, there's things you need to think about and things you don't need to think about, though. And it gets into this also concept in this book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. It's a book about decision making. Basically, you've got these two systems of thinking. You've got your systematic thinking, which actually has to go through the an analysis and go through the grokking of something and trying to break it down, which is not instinctive. And then you've got the autonomous. You've got the heuristic thinking. It's the one that's just instinctual. When you see other people doing something, you want to do it too. Social proof. It's a psychological concept, right? And it's just natural. You see other people do it. Oh yeah, that means it's good. Or what other heuristics are there? Yeah, it's basically just automatic thinking. You've got these two things, these two modes of being. I feel like as analytical people, we can be on the side of system 2 too much. A great example of when it's just not applicable, right? There's no better example in my opinion. If you're a guy and you can see the love of your life, your future wife before you, right? You've never met her, but you can see her, right? You just know, that's my wife. What we will tend to do is we will start thinking about, okay, what am I going to say? Okay, what's the strategy? Blah, blah. You're going to think. That is backwards. I've learned that in that scenario is completely backwards. You're not supposed to think. You're meant to go in and discover what maybe you need to react to and think about post the interaction, maybe. But You must not think. There was a quote also from another past guest, Julius Mujapilo, where he said, "You can't fight yourself and win. Even when you win, you lose." This is why your heart is your private oracle. Because if you act against your heart, even if you win, even if it comes out right, even if the result is quote unquote favorable, if you didn't do it in your way, you may resent the result. Uh, if if it was just a begrudging thing throughout, then the fruits may not have actually been worth it. It's like I often think about how, life is lived in between destinations, right? We think of like going there. I want to get my articles. I want to, go from milestone to milestone, APC, then blah blah blah, then boop boop boop. And then we kind of forget that life is lived in the in betweens. It's between IAC and APC. It's between, first year exam and second and third year exam. It's between your passing of APC and qualifying as a chartered accountant, right? And so life's always lived in the gaps. We obviously want a destination to go to that's very meaningful and enjoyable, to be moving towards something, to be progressing. But if we are progressing in a manner that is against ourselves, I would argue we're not progressing. In many cases, I would argue we are regressing. So consider if you're fighting yourself in that way. Like truly. Like, is this truly what you want? You can fight yourself all day about your aspirations to become, or to try at least, become the CEO of a company. You can fight yourself all day about your aspirations of becoming a drummer, right? Stupid things, such as a dream, such a stupid thing as a dream. You can fight yourself. You won't win in the end. You may have the security, which is good, and you should. You may have the money, but did you win? There are things about which you think and things about which you don't. Number 10, last one. The world will shape you if you don't shape yourself. There's this quote by Carl Jung, incredible quote, which states, "When the world asks you who you are, if you don't have the answer to that question, the world will tell you." The world will tell you. Yeah, man. It's up to you. It's up to you. Straight up. And you kind of learn this the hard way in the working world. The world just kind of sweeps you up in itself. And if you're not really clear about where you want to chart your path, you really will be, you will be swayed by the wind. And in fact, I wrote this interesting piece. I don't know. I'll be vulnerable with you. I think it was pretty interesting. I think it's quite interesting. And yeah, I feel like I should share it. So this is what it wrote, and I feel like it's very relevant. When you understand yourself, I suppose. It's very poetic, so bear with me. For those who are more analytically minded, just go fast forward. 30. In life, be wary of the wind. Be careful not to be swept away by the gusts and the flurries. Be careful not to be flung flailing from the sky, tossed side to side, left and right, up and down, all around. Be careful not to be as a feather. I see that when I go deeper and I grow, I gain critical mass. to the point that gravity can finally act upon me, and I fall. I plummet down into the depths of my soul, of my purpose, of my being. I am submerged in the ocean that is destiny. Away from the air and down in the sea, you will be moved not by the winds, but by the currents, the deep sea currents, powerful, tremendous, unyielding, yet flowing. You will still dance, not as nimbly as in the wind, but fluidly and firmly as in the purest, deepest waters. You will know, man. You will know when you found something that's congruent, I think. And when you found that, I think it's so important to stick to it. My friend, one of my good friends, whom I shall not name, he's currently having issues with an initiative that he started, a nonprofit initiative that he started, kind of an incubator setup, right? An entrepreneurial incubator. And he saw that his team was just having this huge strategic drift. Like they just weren't doing any of what they had set out to do, to actually build business builders, right? That's the purpose of an incubator. And it was because they had not answered the fundamental question, the simple first question of, okay, guys, who are we? Before the world tells us, who are we? You have to know who you are first. And then the problem is, you're going to go out into the world. You're going to go into the working world. You're going to go into these teams. You're going to be kind of shaped by them. You're going to start having this persona at work, this corporate persona, right? When you're not yourself. And I think of this quote by John Updike. He's an American novelist and poet. That the mask eats the face. Your mask will become you. And you will not like it. It will eat at you, man. It'll be against that oracle that is the truth that you know, man. You just know what's not for you. If you just listen, you know what's not for you. Don't let the mask eat your face, bruh, dude. So yeah, I've been having some similar struggles. You know, just trying to learn to be myself, right? I was grappling with that before walking into articles. Like, should I be my outspoken kind of self? Should I hide a little bit of that? Should I speak? Should I pick up my hand? Should I keep quiet? I'm still figuring it out, man. But I think some of the truth is that you can never completely not be yourself. So I would say, in closing, this is probably a good piece to share when it comes to, yeah, when you found yourself or when you're finding yourself and you see something in your vision that you can't shake. When you can't, there's things you can't shake. And when you see these things, it's so important not to forget. And so this is a little piece that I wrote last year called The One Choice, and it might help you on your road. At all times, we face a choice between our vision and everything else. I use the singular vision precisely. One vision and no other. As Nietzsche professed through Zarathustra, one virtue is more virtue than two because it is more of a knot for one's destiny to cling to. That is, one virtue is far heftier than many in bearing our life's weight. One virtue, one purpose, one mission, one vision. Better one purpose than two. Better one mission than two. Better one life than a split life. One sweeping vision with a bird's eye view to guide every step and every allocation of your being, as opposed to thousands of strands of unfocused, feeble attention. I seem to choose everything else. Often, I forget my vision. Do you forget yours too? Do you forget your vision? Remember it. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Guys, if you have not already, please tell us a please. Follow. Subscribe. All those things, right? The board's coming. It's coming. Now I'm in articles, bro. We can fund this thing. I hope it does not end, but that it begins in CASA.